This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show. Your war room for insider news and draft analysis from deep within the confines of Cowboys headquarters at the Star in Frisco.
The Dallas Cowboys select Tyler Smith.
And now, your host, Kyle Yeomans.
Today is Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. We are a clean and even 50 days out from the NFL draft in Kansas City, Missouri, as we are now underneath the half-century mark. Welcome into the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite. We are back at the Star in Frisco in the SWBC studios with the entire crew, Bobby Belt, Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Everybody, how we doing?
Doing great.
Ready
Doing great.
to be back?
Really enjoyed you guys. Zach and I were on we were having to do baseball coverage this past week. You guys did a heck of a job from the Combine.
Thank you.
Really, really good job. DallasCowboys.com. Bobby covering it for 105.3 The Fan. Super information, super interviews you guys did. With Will McClay. I was listening to that one the other day. If you can, go back and listen to that. It gives you guys asked some great questions, gave you some great insight of really how they're looking at these players coming up. I think it was really, really well done on your guys' part.
Had some big time FOMO. Was listening to it on the way back from the flight. But you guys crushed it. You really did.
Well, and I had FOMO and spring training. You know I'm a baseball guy.
I know you are.
If we could have been in both places at the same time, we would have found a way to do it.
We'll get teleportation down at some point.
Kyle's
Figure
speaking
it
for
out.
himself because
You're not a baseball
I am
person.
tired. No, my body's still recovering from you talking about if we could be two places at once. What?
Oh, fair.
Never.
Fair enough. I'm right back in the basketball mode, too. So, yeah, it works out. Bobby, how was your combine?
It was great. It was way too brief. I
Yes.
learned don't drop in on Friday because then everybody that you want to hang out with and see is telling you, I've been going way too hard 4 nights in a row, and I don't feel like going a fifth. And then you go, okay, I guess we'll get coffee in the morning or something. So, but no, it was a good trip. Just need to get there earlier next year. Brian, we need to lobby to get you there next year.
I agree.
We're going to pound the table and say, baseball.
Like 30 years of my life was spent at that place, so I'm glad you guys got to
I
experience
got lost in the skywalk like 3 different times.
I could have
by the
helped you
way.
there.
You
Oh,
could
did
have.
you?
I was trying to get to the Omni at one point. I was like, this is supposed to connect, and it didn't.
It did.
It's okay. Brian and I couldn't find his car when we got back from the airport either. We walked around like a couple of
It
schmucks.
didn't get towed.
No, I didn't get towed.
It's lit.
Yeah, I that was something I talked about on the air. I thought I was going to
wow.
get towed from DFW because I parked in 1 hour parking for a whole weekend.
What?
Yeah, it didn't happen.
You parked in 1 hour parking?
It wasn't
can't
clear
open
that
it.
I wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know. I didn't get towed. Don't
But
worry.
you didn't get towed, so
No,
you're fine.
No, it's here.
It didn't get stolen,
I'm parked
right?
in 1 hour parking now here at the Star, and we're going to be here an hour 20.
You
We'll
gonna
see how
keep
that
living
goes.
on
I'll get
the
you
edge
out.
like
We'll be
Yeah.
fine.
I did the same thing.
We'll make sure it's good. But yes, I agree. Next year, the goal is to get everybody to the combine.
Sounds good.
Everybody was there. Aisha killed it. We had
She did a
Haley
great
Sutton,
job.
Patrick
Yeah,
Walker there as well.
great job.
Alex Lilly, who ran everything and set up the draft show. Everybody was phenomenal. It was
And
a great
stayed
week.
late. Stayed a whole
He
day late.
definitely
Alex
stayed
Lilly
late.
crushed it.
Just to talk to Jerry Jones. He did that for everybody. So just when you look at us and what we're doing, look at Alex Lilly too. All right, and Chris Beam in the back. So
Beamer.
let's talk about the combine. Who raised up your draft boards? Who started to shoot upward for your draft boards based off of what you saw at the combine, Aisha?
Why I gotta go first?
Because you looked down and
I
it
was
made it very
reading.
obvious.
Because you got a lot of notes over there, lady.
I was reading. I think I'm a little higher on Broderick Jones than I was initially.
Okay, Ohio State.
I think a lot of people thought Broderick at Ohio State. I think a lot of people were already high on him, but I still wanted to see how he tested, how he looked, and he pretty much.
Oh, excuse
did.
me. You said
Georgia.
Broderick
Georgia.
Jones.
Georgia,
Sorry.
yeah,
Sorry.
Georgia.
I was
I'm thinking
Googling to
DeJuan
double
Jones.
check.
I was thinking DeJuan Jones. My bad.
Oh, just
different
him, yeah.
Jones.
Yeah. But I mean, 4'9", 40. He actually is taller than what people expected. They thought he was gonna come in at 6'4". He was 6'5". The length is there, and I just felt like he tested well. I just some of these guys, especially the offensive linemen, I think that teams are trying to decide: do I value technique or do I just value power? And my guy's bigger than you, and he's one of those guys that has a little bit of both to me, and a good amount of both. So he has some versatility from what I'm looking at. Yeah.
Is he a top
He's a little
20
better than
player,
me.
Brian?
Oh, I got
He's
him
up in that
Yeah,
category,
I've
right?
got him absolutely. I think he's right in the mix when you start to talk about what he potentially could bring a team. You watch that tape, man. I mean, he gets off the ball, he gets into people, he gets up the field. He's mobile, the agility, all those things that you want. I think Aisha nailed him about. There were probably a little bit of questions about some of his technique, but then the more you watch him, the more you study him, you see that, like, listen, this guy he's a young guy that's got just really so much upside to his game because how long and how powerful he is.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of his. He's a mean mauler.
I like him.
Yeah, I think you're on something there. I was just shocked at how athletic Darnell Washington ended up being.
Ooh.
Like, that
There you
dude,
go.
holy cow. I mean, I had him
hell of an offensive lineman.
Yeah, right, okay, so
I tweeted that. I thought this could be Jason Peters because Jason Peters did the same thing out of Arkansas. Was a tight end and then converted to offensive tackle and had a Hall of Fame career as an offensive tackle. But then you watch, like, to your point, and you're looking at me weird all of a sudden.
No, I just can't believe y'all for real. I thought it was a joke.
No.
I mean, that's serious.
when you watch the tape, his best attribute is the blocking.
No joke here. There are people, scouts across the league, who will tell you some of them think tackle is his future.
Wow.
I tweeted that just thinking of because back in my day, way back in my day, with Jason Peters. Thought the same thing. I'm thinking this guy's a good tight. Georgia's got great tight ends. Let's not.
Oh, they do.
It's incredible.
You might have a top 10 pick next year.
Next year for sure. But see, that's what I'm saying about this guy. When you watch him hit the sled, and to your point about power and drive, but then he goes out and he makes these one-handed catches and stuff like that, and you're like going, okay, maybe he's not a tackle. Maybe he is a tight end. But man, I mean, that's when I thought of put 30 pounds on this guy, put 25 pounds on this guy, and let him go be an offense. I think he's got a shot at being a really, really good one.
Well, because he does. He looks like he's a third offensive tackle on the field.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a difference maker in the run game, and he kind of lumbered around. Like, he moves well for his size at 6'7". There's no doubt about it. I didn't think like he was unathletic by any means.
404 short shuttle.
But he ended up having the best short shuttle.
Yeah, I know.
And then he ran, what was it, a 4.64 40?
Yeah.
Like, holy cow. I didn't think he would put up anywhere near those kind of numbers, and now I think maybe I need to relook at where do I have my tight end rankings.
And he really understands leverage, too,
Yeah.
I feel like. Even in watching him do the sled drills, like, you see the things that are on film translate as far as him understanding leverage, getting under his pads, and
Absolutely.
push, and understanding his strength, using his base. So I guess... I cannot believe y'all. I mean, I do understand it, but I just thought people were saying, like, oh, he could be, because he's such a good blocking tight end, yeah, he can be an extra lineman. But y'all, for real, like, this man, y'all think this man play
I just started thinking about Jason Peters. That's who I thought of, and Jason Peters has had a Hall of Fame career
Absolutely.
as a tackle.
It
was a tight end at Arkansas.
Do you think that'd be an immediate switch? Would that be a rookie season switch?
Oh, come on. I'm just, like I say, it's weird things you start to think of, like, it's the whole thing when you look at John Michael Schmitz from Minnesota and you're thinking,
my guy, yeah.
and you're thinking like, well, he could play guard. And then you think about our kid that from North Dakota State, the kid up there,
Cody Mauch.
Mauch, yeah.
I think it's Malk. I had a North Dakota State Bison fan reach out to me and said I was pronouncing it wrong.
Oh.
So who knows?
Did he say use guys whenever you said? Whenever
he didn't say use. He didn't say use guys.
Right? Is what you said.
He said it's Malk. So
Malk.
maybe we should fact check that.
Well,
I'm going to fact check it right now.
Fact check that, Kyle.
See, but anyway, there's a guy that you all of a sudden he's a tackle, and I'm looking at him as a center. I mean, there's sometimes you watch these guys, and you're thinking some of these corners. You think, well, this guy would be a better safety. I did it with Stevenson from Miami. Same thing. You see a corner playing, but you're thinking, man, I think he could play safety, or I think this tackle could play center. It's just the weird game that scouts play,
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not something that. Right now, I mean, I would be really interested to see if we start to hear some buzz once we get closer to the draft. What Bobby's talking about, are scouts saying, "Man, this kid Washington, you could play him at tackle. He would be a good tackle." We start to hear maybe some more people are talking about that position switch.
All right, here we go. I've got a pronunciation here. Ready?
Cody Mauch.
It is Malk. How about that?
Thank goodness.
Well done, Zach Wolchuk.
I got nervous
Good job,
there for a
dude.
second.
You got tight.
Am I about to get dunked on here? Or what's going on?
No, good job. Well done, dude. All right, so
Malk,
outside
good player.
of that,
Good player.
He's
so
really good.
We've mentioned Cody Malk now. I'm going to have to say that a couple times to get it in the brain. Darnell Washington Did any of these quarterbacks surprise you a little bit in what they're able to do?
Can I
know
mention
CJ
one guy?
Stroud out of Ohio State was
Can I mention
phenomenal.
one guy real quick for myself?
Sure.
DJ Turner, the cornerback from Michigan. When I saw him run and all that.
He tested insane.
Okay, now to me, that guy's kind of a nickel corner. I mean, he's a nickel slot player to me. And I think that's one of those things where now you got to kind of go back and say, well, do you think he could play on the outside? Do you think he could? He's 5'11", he's 178 pounds. That's the problem I'm having, and I don't know if you guys are having this problem too. I'm looking at all these slight guys. Our guy Mississippi State Forbes.
Emmanuel Forbes.
Yep.
Skinny.
Forbes. He
Skinny.
166. And the guy could play his ass off, and you're like going, but he's 166. And then Aisha, I know you talked to him, and he's like, no, I played at 175 or 173 or whatever like that. And but he's still, you measure in, you see him at 166, and you're like, but this is a damn good player.
Really good.
Turner's the same way to me. I see a 178-pound guy, and I'm thinking, I was watching the Michigan State game, and I'm thinking he got bullied on the outside a little bit. But I think he helped himself because to play that inside position, you're going to need to have quickness, you're going to need to have speed, you're going to need to have all those things. I think maybe some people kind of had him down a little bit, but I could see him being a guy that will rise up on some boards because of his speed.
Where do you think? Is he a day 2 guy?
He's absolutely a day 2 guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely a day 2 guy. So
Okay,
I'm sorry I interrupted you about your quarterback.
No, you're good. Well, corner's been a huge topic of conversation. I'm sure that's going to continue because the Cowboys had notable interest in looking at some of the top corners during the week in Indianapolis. Guys like Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois, Deontay Banks out of Maryland, Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. There are multiple names in that cornerback category in a deep cornerback class. So now I kind of want to switch here. We'll talk about.
You're going to have to dig in
later.
on Banks, by the way.
Why is that?
You're going to have to dig in.
Yeah?
Yeah, you're going to have to dig in. Some of the interview stuff and things
Apparently
like that.
wasn't great.
Yeah, I think that, and I'm not saying not great. I'm saying that there's things that these teams test on, where they put you on the board or they ask you questions and stuff like that. And, there was some questions. There's some questions. This kid is a hell of a player, man. You throw the tape on, you watch him move. I was watching him do that Al Davis flip your hip drill where they pedal, they open, they they
So
just.
natural.
You're just like, and this guy's so thick, and then he's bursting out of that, and you're like, going, God dang, I'd love to have this guy on my team. But you're going to have to dig in on this guy. You're going to have teams. I could see this being a guy that does a lot of 30 visits, a lot of people that talk to him, put him on the board, see what he really knows, see if he can if he can adjust to what you're trying to do scheme wise. But man, he is a hell of a football player.
Athleticism wise, he's next level, and he ran well too, tested well, did everything right. Yeah. Everybody's seen him, right? Has everybody watched Deontay Banks?
Yes.
Does it look simple to him? Is it made simple for him from a defensive scheme standpoint when you're watching some of the film to the point where if he does have to come up and do something different and have kind of a multiple look at the NFL level, do you think it's going to struggle?
Well, that's the whole thing, though, that's the whole thing about these corners, man. When they put you out there, you can't bust.
No.
Because if you bust, then all of a sudden it's a huge play. He played well at Maryland, and I'm not going to sit there and act like I know what
defense
what they're running.
I'm not going to sit there and ask like what they're asking their guys to do. I'm just talking about the ability to cover and stuff like that. But then you start to hear those whispers and stuff like that about, well, you need to, and they'd say dig in on him. Ask other people, hey, how did this work for him? Did you get a chance to talk to him about this, that, and the other? So there's a lot more. The disadvantage we have here is we don't get to talk to now. Yeah. You talk to players. Mm-hmm. You got at the combine you got to talk to players. I didn't get to talk to players, and I know Zach didn't either. So there's things you can learn. So when you talk to teams about these players, now you have to figure out like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. With this guy.
In regard to Deontay Banks, I was talking to some people there, and I remember I came across a pretty dope D coordinator, and I mentioned like, hey, some of these guys are undersized. Some of these guys do have a learning curve and stuff. And he literally said, well, what's our job? Like, that's our job. And so I think it depends on who you're talking to, how immediately they want to plug in this player also too. Like, because I think we've seen the last couple of years, cornerback specifically, I feel like the position is on an uptick. I feel like we have quite a few rookies coming in and making a difference immediately. Do you want that? Or do you want a guy that you maybe have to develop a little bit? Because to your point about Deontay, it's like some people are going to look at him and be like, he's so natural and he's so good. If I have to teach him or how to simplify things for him as he grows to learn the position, then oh well. But then some people are like, no, I need a cornerback too right now that can understand everything right now and plug them in right now.
And I think that's the fact that is always the coaching perspective. I feel like it's like, what's their job? It's to get it out of them. So it's that delicate balance of I can get it out of him. I'm supposed to coach him up. That's my job. Versus what can be dangerous sometimes, which is I can fix him.
Yeah,
I can fix this.
Like give me that clay and let me mold him.
And that has burned. That's burned this building occasionally. Is the I can fix him, and it doesn't always work out. And so. You need to be sure. Tyler Smith was a guy last year who they felt like they could fix his issues, and they were right because he had the work ethic. But that's why you have these area scouts and these national scouts and the whole staff to work on these things and understand. All right, this is the kid's work ethic. This is his drive. This is how easily I think he takes to coaching. This is how smart I think he is, and it all comes together.
Yeah, you need all of it.
Well, there's one other corner, and I don't know that he necessarily needed help, but Christian Gonzalez, local kid out of the Colony. Oh man! And the drills you mentioned,
the Al Davis drills, the pedaling. You get a lot when you're talking about those guys and the way they flip, and you're like, my gosh, he's just the way he breaks and the way he moves.
So you don't hate him anymore, Brian?
Did you hate him?
You didn't like Christian Gonzalez?
No.
He's a guy that every time I've gotten to watch him, sometimes you get overlap, right? You'll watch another player, and they're playing against Oregon. And it's like, oh, gosh, there's Christian Gonzalez making another play.
Destroyed that guy.
Oh, my goodness, there's Christian Gonzalez. And you start to like the player even more. And that's happened to me during this process with Christian Gonzalez.
Porter, Gonzalez, Witherspoon, top 3 for me. That's how I got it.
In that order?
That's how I got it.
I thought Porter was going to run better.
Or did that knock him down a little bit on your board?
No. I thought he would run better. Yeah. I had heard he
will at Penn
could
State.
Run like
because I'll go to
I'll 38.
I'll go to State College and get him at 38.
I'll tell you I thought was really disappointing testing wise was Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison, just look at this. Jordan Addison came in. He's weighing 173 pounds. Darnell Washington weighs 264. Darnell Washington's 10-yard split was 157. Jordan Addison's was 156. Darnell Washington's vertical was 31. Jordan Addison's was 34. They both had a broad jump of 10-2. It was awful athletic testing for a guy who's as slight as he is.
Yeah.
He didn't run the shuttle. He didn't run the 3-cone. And so Addison, I thought his testing was terrible, especially for a guy who weighs 170.
I'll be happy to go out to L.A. and get that time for you. I do love L.A. This time of year. I'd be happy to go do that if you want me to.
Are you flying to all these? Is American Airlines hooking
you
up?
We're going to drive to Bama.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me ask you this, though, real quick before we hit this break. With this testing stuff, have we learned our lesson on this? Have we learned our lesson about testing?
I don't think so.
What's our lesson?
Look at the
our
Anthony
lesson
Richardson
is
overhype that's happening.
That's what I'm saying. When you watch these kids play on tape, I think it's part of the puzzle. But man, just if you said you can have the workout of the tape, give me the tape.
Sure.
Give me the tape every single time.
But but when there is, if you just completely ignore the athletic testing, you also get Tease Tabor from Florida.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think that you gotta take all the information, put it together, and then come to a decision.
Sure, and I think it's tape mostly. And so when Addison's testing so just aggressively seems to depart from what you see on tape, I think it's at least going, okay, what happened here? Or why is this the case? Charles Harris, a number of years ago when he was coming out of Missouri, he tested poorly.
Yeah.
Now he said it was over fatigue and too much working and had heavy legs.
Hanging out with Aisha all the time.
His pro day was better. Yeah. His pro day was better. But then Charles Harris didn't do great at the next level. Right. There's not a whole lot of, really poorly testing great tape guys that then carry over. Some of them do, but
Orlando Brown.
There's Orlando Brown's one of them who did. But I think
he was awful,
especially when you're talking about.
He was awful.
When you're talking about when you're talking about positions like corner and receiver.
No, he's a great tackle now, but testing was bad.
No, he was awful. I think his vertical was like 12 inches.
Yeah, it was not good.
No, but when you look at receiver and corner in those positions, it's That's where when it's bad testing, it makes me go, okay. Which, by the way, good testing. Your guy, A.T. Perry, ran better than you were hearing buzz.
Yeah, A.T. Perry definitely impressed me.
4.47.
Not a bad player. Shout out to Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver 1.
Why do you do this?
Ohio State.
Just letting you know, because your wide receiver rankings are pretty poor. And then, when it comes to Jordan Addison, though, I got to say,
A.T. Perry played at Wake Forest.
He did play at Wake Forest, and Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Good quarterback, though.
Rockwell's own Ohio State.
Yeah.
And he's a stud.
Go Yellow Jackets. That
Don't
are actually
overthink
orange.
this, okay? He's wide receiver 1. But Addison, you watch Rajon Wright, Nashawn's brother. Mm-hmm. That dude bullied him all day in that Oregon State USC game. That's the one thing that's got me nervous about Addison, because there's tape like Stanford crushes it, right? He was crushing it against Utah until he got hurt. Yeah. So there's a lot of things to like about Jordan Addison. I'm with you. But when he plays against these more physical, big press corners, they really did give him problems.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because you talk about the tape, you talk about the workouts. Even Dane Brugler talked about it in Indianapolis, but you have to marry the two of them. You don't have to marry them 50-50. You don't have to marry them 80-20. The good teams find the right balance. And for the most part, the team across the way has found a good balance of how to weigh the workouts, which is pretty heavy. They do care about the workouts, and then marry that with the tape and be able to have the 1-2 punch. And I think all these players that we're mentioning here, you have to keep that as an extra bullet point and not the whole story.
I think this team across the way here has figured out that to take the second best player on the board, if you like all of a sudden it's like, oh, do I take the 5th or 6th best corner or take the second best guard? Mm-hmm. I think they figured out to take the second best guard and then work the draft from there. That's where I don't think that they got to a point where, like, to me, when they're bored, the way their board falls, they're like, take that guy, and then they work from there instead of saying, well, okay, the second best guard's on the board, which we could use, but by the way, we got to have this defensive end. Oh, he's the 6th best defensive end because they're picking at 26 or 27 down in the bottom. They figured out, let's just start the draft taking the best player, and then we'll work from there. I think it's a great plan that they have. I really do.
That makes a lot of sense because then you're not pigeonholing yourself.
You're not, and you're starting your draft off the right way. And you're not chasing it by, oh, wow, you look up there, man, we got this guy graded so well, but we're going to take the 6th best defensive end. Mm-hmm. I don't think that does you any good.
No, that's a really good point. You've seen that the last couple of years.
Yep.
All right, when we come back, it's time for a little Twitter on the 20. We're going to answer some questions on the draft show straight from Twitter. If you want to continue to ask your questions, go ahead and do it because I'm going to send them to Brian for tomorrow as well when we come back here on the draft show.
Hey Cowboys fans, if you're looking for a full-time or part-time job, check out Liberty Tax, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. If you've got tax experience and want to help your community with their finances, you're the perfect candidate. No tax experience? We also offer in-person tax school courses locally. Liberty Tax has 79 locations across DFW and 2,300 offices nationwide. Learn more about our job opportunities at libertytax.com/hiring or call your local Liberty Tax office today.
Craving something flavorful? Replace that bloated burrito feeling with Smoothie King's new Power Meal Smoothies. With 3 delicious flavors like cinnamon banana, blueberry raspberry, and spinach pineapple, you can fill up on flavor, not calories. Each meal replacement smoothie is packed with 20 grams of protein, 7 grams of fiber, and 23 vitamins and minerals, all under 350 calories with 0 grams of added sugar. So next time you want something flavorful, swap fast food for a Power Meal Smoothie. Order today on the Smoothie King app. Smoothie King, the official smoothie of the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm Darren Woodson, former Dallas Cowboy player and Super Bowl champion. When I played in the NFL at a high level, I relied on my vision to see the field. As I started getting older, I noticed my vision wasn't as good, and I was getting frustrated from wearing my glasses all day. I went to Laser Care Eye Center, and Dr. G talked about all the options. Thanks to technology and Laser Care Eye Center, I can see near, far, and between. Don't fumble your vision any longer. Visit them at dfweyes.com and tell them Darren sent you. They got me back on my game.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Back here on the Draft Show, presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. It's Miller time and it's draft time here from the Star in Frisco. Bobby Belt, Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Aisha Morrison, Chris Beam in the back, who's about to hit the sounder for some
Twitter on the 20.
Yeah, we don't have to make the noises this time around. You
Leave
like
me
it
alone.
though.
Leave me alone.
We had to get creative in Indy, so
Let me
made
get
it work.
Yeah, let me just.
Speaking of Indy, and speaking of
I
those
had
shows,
it in Indy, by the way, just letting you all know.
did you? Oh, okay,
God.
didn't know that.
You
How
said it
about
in
that?
Indy other years.
The
I love
truth
it.
is out.
I love it. All right. Brandon asked, based off of one of the conversations we had with Will McClay in Indy, he talked about biases.
Yeah.
When watching film surrounding by a certain position, he didn't like the fact that he wore a towel or that players wear towels. If you wear a towel, you're out. That's the bias. He's had to kind of suppress some of that throughout his career. What are some of your biases, Brian? Brandon asked you specifically, but I want to hear from the group because we all watch the tape. We all have the fun with it. Brian, we'll let you start. If you have a bias.
If you're a clapper, after every play, if you're clapping, you're a bad player. I'm just saying that. Because clappers are usually giving up plays. They're always like, oh, damn. They're like that,
Oh, man.
And I can tell you, every time it's done, it's like it's a big play. It's a 30-yard pass. And then you got the guy tackle, or he runs by as somebody else is tackling, and you see him clapping. That's something. Bobby reminded me one more, too, is my weak offensive tackles. And I've been burned by the weak offensive tackle. I mean weak when I talk about strength-wise. Because there's been some guys like Nate Soldar, David Bakhtiari, Terrence Steele, the guys that aren't very strong at tackle, physically tackle. What's my guy with the Raiders?
Colton Miller.
Colton Miller, another one. You
weren't the only one biased against Colton Miller. That was a lot of people.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, though.
He proved him wrong.
The clapper and the weak offensive tackle are the biases that I have.
So it sounds like, at least in the Will McClay mindset, he's trying to suppress his biases to get the player right. It sounds like you're willing to do that for the strong offensive tackles or the not so strong offensive tackles. The clapper's out. That's a deal breaker.
I need to rethink the weak offensive tackle one. But the clapper, that is my tried and true right there.
Our next homework assignment as a group is to find a clapper in this draft.
Watch.
We're gonna
seriously, you will be watching. You'll be watching tape, and you'll go. And it happens the later you get in the draft.
Start making
when
notes.
you start getting that 5th, 6th, 7th round guy.
This guy's
a lot of clapping going on.
I was a
lot of
clapper
clapping
on the
going
basketball court because I wasn't a very good basketball player.
There you go.
Zach, do you have any biases?
No, I don't have any bias. No, the one bias that I have maybe that you could say is I hate the pile jumpers. The guys that are, maybe you're around the football, you read the play okay, and then next thing you know, it's like I didn't actually make the play, but I want to be seen. Maybe I can get credit for half a tackle, and I'm gonna throw my body in there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in. Hey, I'm part of this thing. I'm gang tackling with you boys. I'm in here. But realistically, you didn't make the bleeping play.
So when Brian just gave his examples, do you have any examples of
what?
Of what fit that description? I'm just asking him.
If
he's got anybody.
Anybody that used to play here?
You know who's a good example of that?
Plays on the Giants.
Like a 54
Jail
number.
Hey, don't talk about Bob Lilly that way. He was the pile maker.
Randy White.
Mike Morris from Michigan.
Oh.
Mike Morris from Michigan is the dude that you want off the bus to lead the team, off the squad. Like, damn, that guy looks the part.
He's a Raider pick.
He's not good.
He's going to Las Vegas.
He is not good. He's like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not productive. But every once in a while, like, I'll jump in there. Hey, look at me. I was part of this. Mike Morris is one of those guys for me.
Wow.
Looks the part.
Did you have an example, Bobby?
Of the pile jumper?
Sure.
No, it wasn't my standard. It's his. I was asking him.
Do you have any bias?
You love a good pile jumper, Bobby.
So Brian gave the one petty gave the petty bias and then the actual scouting bias. So I'll give both. The receiver that's towering over everybody is because I've been burned too many times by big stiff receivers, Laquan Treadwell, and guys like that. That I was like, oh, they're gonna be
Chase Claypool.
If I see the receiver that he's just clearly above everybody else, like in height, I'm like, oh, this isn't gonna play out well. And so I'm against that. That's a physicality one. The body language one. Any quarterback that I ever see do that. Just kind of the shrug and throw their hands up, just like, oh my gosh, what do we got to do here? Whenever I see that, I'm like, you're soft. Like, and it's a bias. It's not necessarily always.
So you out on C.J. Stroud?
No, but I mean, it's Stroud. I didn't feel like was the big heavy throw the arms
Some
up
do
guy.
it quite a bit.
Who's the guy that you think was?
I mean, Josh Allen I saw Josh Allen do it at Wyoming, even though I like Josh Allen. And I mean, gosh, some of the greats will do it. Peyton Manning did it all the time.
No
but
doubt.
when I see it at the college level, I'm always like, that feels like a dude who's just trying to shift the responsibility away from himself visibly to show everybody, like, was not me. I don't know what happened there.
You got one?
Dang. So one of my real on film biases, especially on the defensive side of the ball, is motor. Because what else do you have to do? At least be active. It's one of the few things. It's like, even if they're not in the play, at least look like you're trying to be involved in the play. I know it's not fair or whatever, but it is a bias to me. And then also too, this is probably unfair because I think Blake Freeland from BYU has a real bad. Why are you always smiling? Listen.
He's a friendly guy. Nice.
Wipe that grin off your face.
Nah, some positions I don't want you smiling. You ain't supposed to be nice.
Nope.
You're supposed to be nice. They not laughing
Supposed
at
to
you.
be nasty.
You're not wrong. You're so not wrong.
There's some people that I'd be like, stop cheesing at
Well,
him.
yeah,
like,
I mean, you just want to get rid of all BYU players because they all are smiling at all times.
I was even at the combine, he was just, he was killing it, but his game doesn't mimic that either.
Yeah.
So that's like, if you're going to be cheesing at people and stuff, at least be a little disrespectful in your play.
These are all really good. All across the board. This is
mean.
fun.
I'm sorry.
Great question.
I love the motor.
But who's a big smiler who breaks that in the league right now? I'm trying to think of who's a big smile guy.
I guess when he was in the league was Andrew Luck. That was the first one where he's like, "Oh, nice play, dude!" Slap him on the butt, "Oh, thanks, dude. You just hit me real hard."
So yeah, Luck is one that breaks that.
Phillip is the same way. Phillip Rivers was like that. He would talk mess, but he would smile, but he would talk mess.
Phillip, he would get dirty though. He'd get nasty at people,
which I can deal with.
Kind of counteract it. Andrew Luck didn't really do that.
It's that father in him.
Yeah.
You got an example?
No. I was looking at Freeland his notes, but I didn't have anything about smiling in there.
He'd be
got to go back and watch the player.
Lack of power.
There you go. Then when you brought up the tackles, that's your pet peeve. I was
Then Freeland's making the Hall of Fame because both of you have biases.
Yeah, I know. There's no question.
Congratulations, Freeland,
I'm sorry,
on a great
man.
career.
Listen.
All right. Matt asked, did the Combine make any Cowboys targets more likely or less likely? If so, who would fit in each of those categories? Bobby, I'll start with you if there's anybody on the mind.
Did they
anybody off the board or anybody squarely on the board for the Cowboys?
Nolan Smith.
There will be people off the board because of medicals.
Sure.
But the way they tested Nolan Smith, if you had him, I thought it was going to be close.
Well, I guess here's the question: are you talking about tested their way out of Dallas's range, or changed the Cowboys' perspective potentially on them?
I took it as that.
I thought it meant just changing perspective.
I think the question was asked by Matt for what Bobby's saying, but I'm not against talking about what Brian's saying either, because Nolan Smith tested out of reach for Dallas.
I think
because
he
of
did.
the way that he did.
I think he did.
What he did in Indianapolis, running a 4.39 40,
Yeah.
fastest by a defensive lineman out of the entire group, and one of the fastest ever.
Smith and Jigba might have too.
I was going to go with Jackson. I think that's a guy. I was surprised to even see him kind of being mocked around the Cowboys range.
Sure.
I think he's a guy that should be a top 20
pick
now.
I feel like the receiver that you might be looking at, if a first round receiver on my board, might be Johnston from TCU.
Okay.
That might be the guy. I think Addison's going to be gone. That's kind of where I'm at. If you talk about a guy,
awesome.
I think Smith and Jigba goes up. I think Johnston probably comes down. That's kind of where I'm at.
Jalen Hyatt might have raised his stock too.
He was phenomenal.
You think he ran slower than scouts thought he would?
A lot of people, boots on ground, a lot of people were expecting him to run faster.
Really?
And that was
he was supposed to be low 4.3s.
And granted, game tape shows something else. That's fine, whatever.
He's a long strider.
Tracking that. But he also, too, had a couple of drops and drills that people were just like, what's going on? And
Hyatt out of Tennessee, by the way.
Maybe he's there at 26.
So,
Torrance, excuse me, real quick. Torrance with weight loss.
Down to 330
might be something that pushes him. If people really they dig in on him. I know a lot of people had him mocked to Dallas at 26, but someone might say, "Well, give me." People are saying Skoronski from Northwestern's a guard. He's gone. You don't worry about him. Yep. But Torrance, he might be a guy that everybody had mocked to the Cowboys. That might be one that goes 2 or 3 picks before you.
Go ahead.
It's kind of like Kenyon Green last year out of A&M.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah.
Had an early thought, and then he goes at 15.
Sure.
When you thought he would fall to 24. One of the top guys at a position, you're going to see those guys go early, and then those wide receivers too.
Bobby mentioned. So I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Go for it.
My bad. But Bobby mentioned Rashee Rice, like his 40,
SMU.
his split time being better. I'm sorry, I probably should have got the exact number up, but his split time being better than what people expected. He showed some explosiveness off of the line, like that I think is going to help him because we worry about the separation and stuff. So, but you say with you being this explosive off the line, if we can refine your route running a little bit more, then he might be a problem. Also, too, being in the DFW area, I feel like he might have upticked a little bit of people looking at him, given how he tested as well.
1.49-10 split on a 4.5 140. So he's got that explosiveness in the short
That's
area,
your
and
point.
his vertical was good.
Dig in.
I was having trouble thinking about it. I was like, was there anybody who, athletic testing wise, I think just that maybe would have been of interest to them, that maybe the testing didn't hit the right parameters, and I wasn't thinking of anybody. And then
Sanders?
Keyshawn Boutte.
Okay.
LSU.
They do like explode. They like more explosive type of receivers. The 10-yard split there was 158. The vertical was 29 inches. I mean, that's not a 29-inch vertical on Boutte. I think would be tough for them to go. So if you're talking about somebody who got their way out of their attention, probably Boutte.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Does Mims from Oklahoma come back into play for them?
Because of the testing?
Because of the testing, but the size, the height. I mean, he was a guy. I mean, you're going to have to figure out all these guys.
5'11", right?
Flowers from, Flowers, Boston College, Downs, North Carolina, Mims, Oklahoma. Tell me, when you guys figure these receivers out, these slight receivers, just please let me know, and I'll trust you guys on this.
The question with Mims is, do they just? Again, it's not about size to them so much as do they think he can
do other
things.
things.
Can he live outside, or does he have to be in the slot? If they think he can do more than inside the slot, then I think he's. And I'd guess they think he could play outside some, and so I don't think he'd be off the board for them. He ran faster than I know. There were people keenly aware of his training that thought he was going to run 4.49, 4.50.
Good for him.
And he ran
man.
4.38.
That's awesome.
And so he was a surprise, I think, in terms of and even still for people who were more optimistic about him, I think they thought low 4.4. So for him to come at 4.38, I think was huge for him.
Well, and he's a guy when you hear Mike McCarthy talk about what they want this offense to do, quick reads, we're going to get the ball out quick. Just get him in space. Put the ball in his hands. Marvin Mims is a guy that can go and get you that yak after the catch. And I think Marvin would fit this offense very, very well.
He could be a contested catch guy, too, right?
He is. He's got great body control, goes up high points to football. He makes some dazzling plays when you watch him in Oklahoma.
I will say on Hyatt, even though he didn't run as fast as people thought, it may have been a bad training day, something like that. I don't know. But I was down there Friday night watching him work out, get ready for the Saturday run. That's the first guy that I've watched run and train that he literally looked blurry when he would run. He is so fast.
Shifty.
I was stunned it was just 4.4.
I think he's a great receiver.
Because when I watched him run, that back end of his run, he literally looks like a blur when he runs. It's insane.
The only guys I have above Hyatt are Flowers, Johnston, Addison, and Smith and Jigba. And not in that order. It's actually reverse order. I have Smith and Jigba first.
I think Johnston came in.
Good eye.
I'm right there with you, boy.
I think Johnston came in much lighter than teams were expecting.
Is that because what did he come in at? He was at 190.
He came in at 208.
Okay. He was at 193, at least on the website prior to testing. Yeah.
Quentin Johnston was 215.
Oh, what am I looking at then?
I don't know. I don't know where.
My numbers are wrong.
Quentin Johnston, I know.
I've got his year before or something.
People thought he was going to be around 215, and it's just he came in at 208, and I don't know. It'll be interesting to see where he weighs. It's end of the month when they have pro day for TCU. I'll be interested to see what his weight's at then. Yeah. But I was talking to one person in Indy this week, and they were talking about Quentin Johnston's play strength, and they went like this. And they hold up there, and I was like, "What is that?" And they're like, "That's his arm." Yeah, they're like he doesn't have any bulk.
Oh, interesting. Real quick, I do want to get one more question in here before we get going. Kyle asked, and no, it's not me. Kyle Wichman asked, "Would you draft Andrew Voorhees out of USC? Guy, offensive lineman, tore his ACL in the middle of the testing, in the middle of the workout. Would you draft him, and where would you draft him is the question. If you're the Cowboys, he's a guy that was thought to be maybe a top 100 pick, interior offensive lineman, somebody that could maybe be a project moving forward, but he's coming off of now a torn ACL. Do you think he would fit in that sort of conversation?
You get those compensatory picks, and they did it with Bruce Carter, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure did.
Yeah. This team has a history of taking players and trying to kind of stash them and try and get them ready. I think it's always a possibility with that, especially like I say with the compensatory picks, to maybe say, okay, well, hey, this is a guy that we I personally, if we're going to stash somebody, I would do it with the Tennessee quarterback is who I would do it.
Hendon Hooker?
Hendon Hooker. That's who I would stash.
I like that idea.
Sleeper.
Yeah,
Cool
to me, if you're going to but I was talking with Dane Brugler driving over this morning, and there's something, and Zach and I real quick. Zach and I did a segment yesterday on the syndrome with older quarterbacks, the Brock Purdy syndrome,
right?
Where teams are looking at, give me the quarterbacks that have played a ton of snaps. Give me the quarterbacks that might be a little older. Well, all these quarterbacks might be a little older because of what we did in the pandemic and the NCAA giving everybody another year and guys taking advantage of that. Hendon Hooker is going to be, 27 years old by the time you get him playing. But why do I feel like that's okay? I'm okay with that. But if you're gonna let me take a guy and stash him and try and get him healthy, I think I'm looking at that quarterback from Tennessee. There's such a calmness to his game.
I like that idea.
I'm a big fan of Hendon Hooker.
But he's played a ton of snaps.
What was his injury again?
Knee.
It was an ACL.
Got hurt in the South Carolina game late in the year, and they say he might be ready for training camp or for the training camp or parts of it. But these guys, Britt Brown and them, they take these guys and put them back together in a nice way. And I would gamble more on him than I would maybe that offensive lineman if it was me.
Yeah, and to your point, I mean, we saw this past year how many backup quarterbacks had to play this year.
Absolutely.
Past year. So,
62, I think it was.
So to have a guy that has had time and is almost ready to come in and be an immediate, filler in that position, I guess that does make sense there.
Yeah. All right, let's take our second break. When we come back, we're going to talk tight ends. There's a lot of tight end talk in draft Twitter right now, Cowboys Twitter right now. Is it okay to take a look at some of these tight ends at pick number 26? We'll answer that question and a whole lot more.
What are you looking at me for?
Right after this on The Draft Show.
I'm Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Blockchain.com is one of the most trusted ways to buy, sell, and trade crypto. Whether you're always on the go or stay closer to home, Blockchain.com is just a few taps away. Put the power of crypto in your pocket, so no matter where you are, you can trade on your terms and build a crypto portfolio to fit your life. For crypto pros, rookies, and anyone in between, Blockchain.com makes it easy to own a piece of the future. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team.
In a stressful world, Lincoln provides balance and calm amidst the chaos by creating sanctuaries that move you through the world with ease. Our vehicles make your time richer and more uplifting with human-centric design, intelligent technology, and powerful performance. As the official luxury vehicle of the Dallas Cowboys, driving a Lincoln is just another way to show your team pride. Experience our full lineup of luxury vehicles, including the Corsair, Aviator, Navigator, and Nautilus at Lincoln.com.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, sinking, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with pre-game sideline access and photo ops with current players, cheerleaders, and Cowboy legends. You want to stay at a team hotel, attend the best tailgate party in Texas, tour the Star, and talk X's and O's with me, Everson Walls? With Star Sports Tours, you can. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
This is the DallasCowboys.com Draft Show.
Tax season can be more stressful than a last-second Hail Mary. With the game on the line, overcome your taxiety today with Liberty Tax, a proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Book an appointment at libertytax.com/Cowboys. Welcome back into the Draft Show presented by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, Bobby Belt, Aisha Morrison. I'm Kyle Yeomans. There was this tweet I saw yesterday. It just popped up. And it wasn't the only tweet. There were just a couple of them surrounded. This comes from one Zach Wolchuk. And the tweet said...
That guy sucks.
I can't stand that guy.
That was harsh.
Why are you even reading his tweets?
Tight end 1, Dalton Kincaid being mocked to the Cowboys, me likey. So Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. We've already talked about Darnell Washington out of Georgia. We've spoken on tight ends quite a bit on this show, mostly with the thought of it being at 58, maybe second round, third round, fourth round guys, especially with Dalton Schultz departing. Now it's all of a sudden looking like it's a first round conversation too. Would that be something that the Cowboys should look into? And I know your answer, Zach, but anybody else opposed to that for the most part?
Opposed to picking a tight end in the first?
Looking at me like that, Ryan.
No. You're not opposed to it.
Not at all.
Not anymore.
Look, I've also gotten to the point where I just we've had so many instances of our natural inclinations that we don't like about certain things, that how the Cowboys will approach a draft weekend, that have over time proved us wrong, whether it be Tyler Smith or Leighton Vander Esch or guys like that, not that they're infallible, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on some things. And even with that said, I don't have a problem. So, I mean, if they think tight end's the pick, then I'll be like, okay, this will probably be a good player. But specifically, I think you just need a dynamic weapon. So if it's a dynamic tight end or it's a dynamic receiver, I don't care. Just whatever you think is going to be the most explosive weapon, the biggest mismatch you can have. And in this day and age, you talk to a lot of people and they'll tell you, like, a really dynamic tight end is one of the hardest things to cover. In terms of for opposing defenses. It's one of the hardest mismatches you can get. So if they spot that guy in the first, second round, whatever it is, and they think, yeah, we can take a shot on this guy and he'll be a good match for us, a good match against defenses, then absolutely go do it.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better, Brian.
Yeah, I think that to me, the difficulty, I know with me, there's more certainty with the tight end position than there is with the wide receiver position. And I got on the soapbox earlier and was talking about, if you guys figure out the slight wide receivers, the undersized guys, if you figured out how these guys are all going to play or how they're going to fit in, please let me know on this, because that might be something I'm struggling with right now a little bit. But I feel like that I have a pretty good understanding of these tight ends. Mm-hmm. When you start to talk about the Notre Dame kid, Mayer, right? Mm-hmm. When you talk about Mayer, when you talk about Kincaid from Utah, Musgrave from Oregon State, even Tucker Kraft from South Dakota State, I feel like I have a feeling about these guys. And I think, to Bobby's point, is that just give me the weapon. The fact that Jerry Jones sat on that bus and told us, and he started talking about Kelsey. But here they had Dalton Schultz, and they now it's like we're moving on from Dalton Schultz. We've got to do better. And they've got, with Hendershot and Ferguson, they've got some really good tight ends. But if you add another one, if you add a Dalton Kincaid to the position or to the group, how much better does that make you? Does that make it better? I felt like Tolbert was going to come in and be a good player for them. I have a feeling if they draft whoever this wide receiver is or this tight end, this guy needs to be plug and play. There doesn't need to be any we're thinking about how we're going to use him. No, if it's Dalton Kincaid or Mayer, one of those guys, put them on the field and let them go.
Yeah.
Because they've proven to me that they're more consistent as players than what I'm seeing at some of these wide receivers.
And I think those are day one impact guys. And we've seen Dak Prescott likes to go to tight end. And the pushback is, okay, well, you've got Jake Ferguson. Do you not like Fergie? Well, no, I do. I think Ferguson's a really good player. I was very high on him coming out of Wisconsin. But wasn't it exciting last year when you see some 12 and 13 personnel and the Cowboys are using multiple tight ends? Mm-hmm. To me, there might not be a better matchup nightmare in the NFL than when you have a plus tight end on your team. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to have multiple of those guys, let's go out and let's line up and let's have some fun. And you have a special tight end class. And to me, at 26, you might get wiped out at receiver. We were just talking about that. You might not have an offensive lineman like an Osiris Torrance or one of these tackles fall to you. It's very possible that the best player on the board is a tight end. And that player is going to help Dak Prescott. And if it's Dalton Kincaid, who you watch him against USC, they can't guard him. They know he's getting the football, the kid out of Utah. And all he does is catch everything thrown at him. He's able to stretch the field via the seam. And to me, I mean, he's a playmaker. You know, he's got a wide catch radius. Same with Mayer. They call him Baby Gronk out of Notre Dame. These are weapons that the Cowboys, even with Jason Witten, you know, an elite talent, maybe Hall of Fame player, but these guys have a different kind of athletic profile and upside that we haven't seen for a long time.
You think that's the case with Mayer?
Mayer
to me is the tight end of, you know, yesteryear. Which I mean, he's still very good, and I think he'll be successful. But to me, in terms of stretching the field and being a really difficult mismatch, I don't know that Mayer fits that for me.
I think he's a contested player, and I mean contested catch guy in traffic, and I like that. I like the way the drag. You see him down on the goal line in the red zone and stuff like that. He's a super, super productive guy. And the thing, like I say, I think you could use him in both ways. I think he could play in line next to the tackle, or I think you can move him and play him in flex on the outside, and I think he's going to be fine. Give me a guy that's going to line up at a lot of different spots. Now, 6'5", I mean, I know I don't have. I mean, I need to pull up his combine measurements, but I was working off 6'5", 265. Mm-hmm. You know,
Mayer,
and then
6'4.5", 249.
Okay, see, so he's lost some weight,
and he ran a 4.7.
Yeah, to me, I feel like though that when you look at him, I always feel like when these kids go like for their pro days at their schools, they're probably going to run better. Mm-hmm. But man, there's just too much. I mean, the reach, the extension, all this stuff about Mayer, I think is really, really positive.
I'm with you. I mean, he's a guy that moves all over. They line him up outside. They line him up inside on the slot, and he'll beat corners. So, I mean, to your point, I don't think he moves as well as Musgrave out of Oregon State or Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. I think those guys are a little bit more smooth in the open field. But I'm a fan of a guy like Michael Mayer, and he's a good inline blocker.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, talking about the tight end position, like you look at a guy like Payne Durham from Purdue. I remember I actually got to talk to him, and he just spoke about just the emphasis on working on his hands, working on that, because he is known as like that blocking, gritty guy. But he understood, hey, man, I got to add this to my repertoire. I got to add this to my game. So it kind of lets you know just where the game is going. But I wanted to add to the list of tight ends that I think showed they tell a little bit. I think Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion really showed some explosiveness and stuff that people didn't think. I mean, his 40, it was an official 4.55, I think, but he looked like he was moving way faster than that. And so his cone drill was good. I feel like he really showed some people like, nah, I got some explosiveness to me. I got some other parts of my game to me, and I think that he's going to get some people's attention as well moving forward.
Yeah. What do you think about somebody outside of Kincaid and Mayer? Do you think Washington's in that category? Because right now, Mayer from Notre Dame, Kincaid from Utah, those are my two guys I'm okay with being at 26. Those are my two guys. Outside of that, I will wait because I don't want to push it.
I kind of like Schoonmaker from Michigan would be my next guy. That I mean, and if you're talking about if you're not getting one of the top guys, Luke Schoonmaker from Michigan is. I think this guy, you know, he plays really well on his feet, fit, drive. They'll run the ball behind him, you know, and that's the one thing Michigan do. They will line up and play football in a phone booth and just slam the ball at you. And I like the fact some of these tight ends you see, they put them on the backside and they don't. They're cut off guys. But they run the ball behind this guy. I think that you could put him as a point of attack blocker, but you could even flex this guy, and he's a good route runner. And he can get up the field. He doesn't labor. He's smooth, and he catches the football. So if you're not getting an opportunity at one of those top guys, the Michigan kid, Schoonmaker, for me, is a guy that I would certainly consider.
Okay. Anybody else outside of that?
I mean, so you wouldn't have Musgrave as a guy you'd like at 26?
Probably not.
Mayer above
he
him?
would be close. Yeah, I've got Mayer above him. I've got Kincaid, Mayer, and then I actually have Musgrave, Laporta, then Darnell Washington.
I think Kincaid and Musgrave are the two guys who are the type of modern tight end that present a lot of mismatches. And specifically with Musgrave, I think his footwork looks like a receiver to me, which is
that knee
so
injury,
rare.
though. I mean, you're going to have to check that knee.
He was cleared.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
The chatter out of Combine was that he got cleared.
There you
and
go.
So
you're not wrong about the kid. It's a smooth runner now. That is a smooth route runner.
He is huge. And Tucker Kraft, you mentioned him, Brian.
Yeah.
Big fan.
He's moldable. I describe him as moldable. I think he can do a little bit of everything, but he's just difficult to tackle. His vision is good because of the running back background and stuff.
Yep.
So if you get him on your team, if you got a good coach, you can make some money with him, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he could be a steal.
Yeah.
It could be fun to watch. I think either way, you're going to see a tight end drafted again by the Cowboys at some point in day one or
sooner
day two.
than Bobby says, sooner than what we are used to. So,
I just think they take a pass catcher somewhere in the top 100, and whether that's a receiver, a tight end, whoever they have graded higher, but it very well could be a tight end. So I would not be stunned if they take a tight end in the top 100.
Would you guys take Johnston? If I mentioned him, would you take Johnston, the TCU wide receiver, over a top tight end?
No. Why would you when you sound like you're gonna get better?
I need to know if
Washington
Johnston, like I need to have confidence Johnston's going to be able to get off press.
I have.
That's what I was about to say.
I have Kincaid as a better player, but I would take Johnston over Mayer.
I
really
would agree
like
with
Johnston,
that.
but yeah.
I'd agree with that. I have Johnston as number 26 on my board right now, and this is all going to change between now and draft day, of course. But I have 26 as Johnston, 25 is Kincaid, and then I've got Mayer at 28. So they're all right there jumbled together, but I would have exactly what Zach just said. I think I
So
would
where
do
does
that.
Laporta fall on your board? Because he tested well, but then also Dane had a lot of good stuff to say about him.
Yeah.
About
He's a
things
top
he heard
35 player on my
in Iowa.
Laporta, I think, when I watched him, I think he was really hurt by his offense.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
I like him.
A lot of people were hard on him because of the drops and stuff, and then I said, well, when you got to, that's why you got to take a look. Start looking at, okay, well, look at this Iowa offense.
Right.
Look at how
Quarterback
it's run.
play,
Look at-
horrible.
Yes.
Play calling, terrible.
And he showed when the ball's delivered to him well and stuff. And I thought he's one of the few guys that I felt like, yeah, the testing helped him. It helped him adding it to the film and making sense of things. So where does he fall for y'all?
I think he's a top 35 player.
I've got him. I've got Musgrave, Kincaid. Mayer, Musgrave, Mayer, Kincaid, Musgrave, Washington, Laporta. That's how I have the tight ends on my board.
Yeah.
I have Kraft ahead of Laporta.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not out of the question.
It's not.
No, not at all.
It's not out of the question.
All right. Good show, everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. I will not be back tomorrow, so Brian
I get to
Broaddus
host
will
tomorrow.
Get to host.
Lordy.
How about that? We're going to have Brian in the host chair tomorrow.
Get ready for the fire, kids.
I'll be back next Wednesday. We'll have some fun. But that does it for us today on The Draft Show presented by Miller Lite. For Chris Beam in the back, Bobby Belt, Zach Wolchuk, Brian Broaddus, and Aisha Morrison, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. We'll see you tomorrow with more of The Draft Show.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.